Hey, this is Frank. You're listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. Do you ever feel like you have friends who sometimes just don't get each other? This is a podcast that I recorded with two of my friends, Jake and Noah. We find out the hard ways we struggle to communicate better and sometimes succeed, but sometimes not. For years, the three of us have talked about communication and how it's sometimes easier said than done. Even when we're trying to be understanding, our well-meaning intentions often get lost in translation. We decided to share these conversations with the world. Join us as we find out what happens when three friends try to learn how to really talk to each other.
Soap in the bathroom is coconut and hibiscus, but it was turned a little bit. And I only saw the end of both words. And I definitely thought it said, like, just quick glance, donuts and biscuits. This is like a real bakery themed soap. I just love when my hands smell like baked goods.
Yeah, so Noah said, have you had the donuts and biscuits soap? And I was like, did they change the soap in that? I've just used it, but it seemed like it was real hibiscus-y.
Yeah, just a quick glance of the end of those words.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How are you guys this week?
I'm doing pretty
Should we
well.
Fake like it's a week-to-week thing?
I mean,
what's 7 plus 15? I was going to say the date.
Oh, I see what you were doing there.
Oh, yeah, but we're like 2 weeks ahead. So what's 7 plus 7 plus
October
7? October
29th, 2023. Welcome, Tuppies.
Yeah, I did see Segura the other day on his podcast, looked at the screen. They have some screen up with facts about the podcast they're recording.
Oh, interesting.
And they were talking about...
That's commitment.
Like they were talking about some sporting event that was about to happen.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, oh, and this will go live the 29th. So, yeah, I hope that team won. Yeah, I'm sure they did. Let's just predict it. They won. Good job. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think, they're very consistent in their mission and their delivery.
The Segurites?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
They're like Costco.
Is that right? Is Costco consistent in their mission?
I think so. Noah doesn't like them.
What is Costco's mission?
I don't know. Find goods at great prices. He thinks
they're consistent in their mission that he doesn't know.
So I have inferred a consistent mission through the behaviors of Costco.
Yeah, it's exactly what I thought. Here at Costco, we have a very straightforward but important mission to continually provide our members with quality goods and services at the lowest possible prices.
Okay.
Yeah, but
they don't always do it.
Obey the law, take care of our members. That's their code of ethics.
Wow. That is, I love that.
And they don't do it. In my one experience with them.
You're not a member.
You were the member. I was not the one that they were communicating with.
So did they break the law?
They did not take care of you.
They did take care of me. If I wanted that iPhone, I'd have it. She said, I can't get you one now, but when they come back in stock, I can make sure we get you one, and I'll honor the price, and I'll do something else. I don't remember what she said, but
you wanted it right now, and they did not do that.
Yeah, and they shipped it to me, and they took a loss on it, and someone stole it out of the package, and they still wanted to ship me another one. And it wasn't even for me. I didn't obey the law. They don't want you to use your membership for other people, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to revoke my membership because I'm admitting this on the internet.
Whoever edits this, edit that out. So Frank doesn't lose. Well, in reality, so Brandy doesn't lose her.
That's true.
So, you know what the Costco mission statement that makes me think of?
No, this is interesting. Okay, go ahead. But I have another thought.
Go ahead.
Well, no. So one time Frank, more than one time, actually many, many times, Frank's asked me if I think it's okay to sell 5-gallon buckets of Blizzards.
Mm-hmm. So you would say that if Costco provided 5-gallon buckets of Blizzards.
Think it's okay to sell the amounts of things they sell to people? Like, how big of a bucket of cheese balls can you get at Costco?
I'm willing to say for sure that they don't sell cheese balls there. Sam's Club? I bet Sam's Club has a big old bucket of them, though.
You don't think Costco sells cheese balls, really?
I don't. Like the puffy things?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Costco business delivery. Utz cheese balls, 35 ounces. 35 ounce. They call it a barrel. 35 ounce barrel of cheese balls.
Well, there's your answer. Does that seem like a lot? It's only 35 ounces.
Yeah, they're air. That's 35 ounces of air that is flavored like cheese.
Also, when I click on that, it doesn't come up for me. Item is unavailable.
I mean, why does it come up if it's not a thing?
Because they sold it once.
Well, that's sort of why I thought the mission statement, obey the law, take care of our members, was very interesting because of how subjective some of those definitions could be. Like obey the law, very objective. But the law itself, it's like the spirit of the letter of the law. And it doesn't go anywhere beyond obeying the law. It's like, we're going to take every opportunity to get as close to the law as possible. But ultimately, that provides the lowest price possible for the members. And then taking care of the members, well, what does that mean? If the customer is always right, they say, I want 5-gallon blizzards at $29. They're going to be like, we're going to give it to you for $27.
Costco is out to kill you.
I don't think they are, because they provide quality goods and services at the lowest prices. And while they might have once tried selling cheese balls, they didn't find them to be quality goods. So they don't anymore.
Either that or they sold out and they can barely keep them in stock because their prices are so rock bottom.
I mean, I go there occasionally and I never see cheese balls. That's all I'm saying.
Next time you go there, please look for cheese balls.
I see them at Sam's Club, so I'm aware of what they look like.
I'm not saying you don't know what they look like.
Sam's Club has a whole section that's like the obesity section to the max.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Dunkaroo, like 100-pack of Dunkaroos. Who would need that ever? I don't need that for the rest of my life.
They do sell. Okay, here's a different example since you don't like the cheese ball example. Costco sells a 30-count Coca-Cola. They sell a 30-count M&M, Snickers, and more chocolate candy bars variety pack.
As opposed to the traditional 24-pack.
And I'm probably for a better price. So they're making it easier for you to kill yourself.
25% more for 25% less.
Yeah, those particular products are a atrocity that they're there.
Yeah, let's talk about tires or Disney World vacations. I mean, they do it
I think
all.
the products you mentioned are there primarily because they're addictive, and additionally because Berkshire Hathaway owns most of them, and it's in the interest. All the shareholders have aligned interests.
I'll be honest, like for me, it's kind of interesting because I am a 100% like outside perspective. I've obviously heard of Costco. I've seen Costco portrayed in shows, movies, whatever. Never been there, never had any interaction with them. So to my mind, it conjures this idea of this giant box store where you can get a couch and some jeans and a big cheese ball, box along with 2-year supply of toilet paper all at the same place. And then every once in a while, I get other people who tell me about Costco and they're like, yeah, that's where I got my Disney World vacation. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But I guess my point is the takeaway here is perception from just a regular everyday person who's never had any interaction with Costco. It is definitely the 30-pack of Coke. This is what I think of when I think of Costco.
Yeah, or the 60-count Oreo variety pack that's right here. 42-count Famous Amos.
Yeah, I mean, I think they sell snacks because people eat them. They don't want to go there and only buy meats.
Yeah, but
they
it's funny
sell meats.
how the argument changes when we're talking about Costco over DQ.
What do you mean?
Do you think that should Costco sell 5-gallon buckets of Blizzards?
I didn't say the DQ shouldn't. So I don't agree with your premise.
Right. You didn't defend DQ, but you are defending Costco, which is interesting.
No, I'm not. They shouldn't sell those things, but they do because it's a part of their mission.
Okay. But now let's take it deeper. And is their mission, if their mission is to do what's best for their members, is selling 40 count Oreos best for their members?
Yes, because of the final statement in their mission statement. And I want to read their whole mission statement, and then I want Jake to tell us about Infinite Games.
It's a perfect segue.
I know. So here at Costco, we have a very straightforward but important mission to continually provide our members with quality goods and services at the lowest possible prices. In order to achieve our mission, we will conduct our business with the following code of ethics in mind: obey the law, take care of our members, take care of our employers, respect our suppliers. If we do these 4 things throughout our organization, then we will achieve our ultimate goal, which is to reward our shareholders. Jake, is that infinite or finite?
No, it is. It's a perfect segue to talk about where we kind of landed last week, which is that all of us, whether we like it or not, are engaging in games based on the definition of like if you're interacting in a system, you're essentially playing a game. And there are 2 types of games as defined by, I believe it was James Cars. Is that what you said?
James Cars is the one who originally wrote that
back in the 80s. And he talked about the difference between an infinite game and a finite game. I recently read the book, The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, and he defines a finite game like football or chess. The players are known, the rules are fixed, and the endpoint is clear. The winners and losers are easily identified. In infinite games like business or politics or life itself, the players come and go, the rules are changeable, and there is no defined endpoint. So essentially, in a finite game, the goal is to complete the game. In an infinite game, the goal is to perpetuate the game itself. And we're always doing this. So in terms of like a business, if we're looking at a business with a mission statement, he says, in my observations, the businesses that seem to have the most sustainable long-term success are the ones that have an infinite mission because they're perpetuating the game itself, as opposed to the ones that have a finite mission. They might achieve their goal, and then what? So he looks at something like he was talking about, talking to Apple and Microsoft. He was a speaker in the same year. I think it was like 2007 or something like that. And the MP3 player was the big thing out on the market. And he said, I spoke and Apple gave me their iPod Touch and Microsoft gave me their Juke, I think it was
Zoom
called.
or something? Zoom.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know what it was exactly. But he said, I played with both of them, and honestly, Microsoft's product was like far superior. It was way better. It had a better user interface. It was phenomenal. And I had to mention this to the CEO of Apple at the time, or the CIO. I don't remember what it was exactly, but he said, Microsoft's product, it's quite a bit better. And he just wanted to see what the guy said. And he said, I'm sure it is. And then he just walked away. And he said, this speaks to the difference in Apple and Microsoft's missions at the time. Apple's mission statement was bringing the best user experience to customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. Microsoft's at the time seemed to be beat Apple. Apple was playing this infinite game in which there are going to be ups and downs, wins and losses, but I'm ultimately driving toward a goal. And Microsoft was beat Apple. Well, looking back 15 years later, who won that game? Microsoft doesn't even have something like that.
Yeah.
and they're certainly not big in the phone game. So my whole point here is that, we were talking about this last week in terms of, if I have a goal and I want to remain consistent, if I make a decision at 19 to pursue a goal and it's finite, it's pretty rigid, and it might be hard to make minor adjustments throughout to get there. But if the goal itself is infinite, I want to make an impact on the world. I want to feel fulfilled in and of myself, and I want to help people in a specific way. Well, I can adjust something at 26 that says, I'm actually going to change my major or the area of study, so that I can better achieve the mission, not this very finite, very fragile goal. And Frank, I think you talked about, like, you called it course correction or something like that.
Being directionally correct. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you talking about there?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. It's present in the Costco mission, I think.
Uh-huh.
They want to continually provide our members with quality goods and services at the lowest possible prices. That's where they're going. That's directionally correct. On the way, the laws will change, the members will change, the employees will change, the suppliers will change, but they're going to take care of them. They're going to just keep within the bounds. Mm-hmm. That's why it says obey the law. They're not they don't care what the laws are going to be. They're going to follow them. They're going to take care of their members so they can achieve their ultimate goal, which is to reward the shareholders. I think that's directionally correct. Like a great example of it. Mm. And it's why it's so simple. It's just, we don't know what it's going to be like. It might be Disney vacations.
Yeah.
Some people might ask us to bring damn cheese balls in here. And that doesn't seem like it makes any sense today. But
right.
If the members want it, we're going to take care of them.
Well, that was the other thing. Like, I think that's exactly it. Simon Sinek also talks about Victorinox, who has historically always been known for the Swiss Army knife. That was their primary product. If their mission had been to provide the best Swiss Army knife to every user, September 11th would have absolutely ruined them, because essentially, like, this, travel thing that was sold at airports and was in everybody's bag became totally off limits. But what they did was they said, no, our goal is actually to supply like Swiss precision products to our users. And then they pivoted and they started making all these, like, bags and duffel bags and, this type of stuff. And it's like, let's do cheese balls. It's the same thing. Like, it has this flexibility to it.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it speaks to that consistency as well, which is like, I am consistently moving toward my target, this body that is strong, but also lean. It's like, well, at some point I've got to increase this macronutrient or increase these calories to build the muscle that I want. And that might mean that I get a little bit of extra fat at that time, but then I might drop it. And it's all just these little course corrections over time that get us toward that.
Yeah. This is like very exciting to me, actually. The more I think about this as a framework, it's just very good. It's like the law is a mirror. The members are a mirror. Employees are a mirror. Suppliers are a mirror. Like, if you don't take these variables into account in the system, then you might not notice that your calves are missing. Like, you won't win. You're not going to be a great bodybuilder if your calves aren't good. And you need these things in the picture. So there's a clear mission. Like, I have a vision of where I'm going. I need these variables to help me see whether we're on track. And then we can reach our ultimate goal. I don't know. I like Costco even more when I read it.
So I recently had this conversation about marriage and divorce. And this might be more of a controversial topic, but, I was married and now I'm divorced, and I consider my marriage to be a success. And I think it speaks directly to this finite versus infinite mission of the marriage. How could the marriage end and it be a success? And it's because the premise upon which me and my partner engaged in that relationship was to do the thing that was best for the other person at every point in time, to love that person to the greatest extent of our capacity, knowing that that capacity was going to fluctuate and be dynamic, and to acknowledge reality on reality's terms at every point in time. So when there was a point at which that relationship, as the two people we were, was no longer tenable to maintain that marriage, we said, I'm going to let you go free to pursue the person that you are. And we did that for each other. So, if I look back on historically, the success metric of a marriage was, well, did you stick through it? And did you get to 80 years old and have your 53rd wedding anniversary? And it's like a lot of people could say yes. And then the woman would also say, yeah, I mean, he hit me sometimes, but we just, kept going and all this stuff. And it doesn't.
We always forgave each other.
Exactly. Right. It doesn't account for, and there's some value in that sort of mindset as well. I'm not saying it's absolutely wrong,
Sure.
but that success metric really doesn't account for the deviations and the course corrections that need to occur over a lifetime as a human process changes. And I think that if you can create an infinite mindset for relationships, you say, well, the relationship exists to accomplish this goal or this mission. Is it still doing that? If so, to honor if not, to honor that relationship, I may need to change the shape that it currently inhabits.
Sure. I like it. I think there are all kinds of relationships, so I don't love the framework applied to relationships, but certainly you should end the ones that are not serving anyone anymore. I mean, sometimes for a season or whatever, like a non-ideal relationship does do ultimate good or something. Like, I don't even mean an intimate one. I just mean like, I'm going to work for these people. I'm going to do the best. I know they don't like me, but I need the money and I have a goal and it's going to get me there,
Well, I sort of mentioned that last week with Matt Fraser. It was like he knew that this wasn't a sustainable thing for his whole life, but he said, I'm going to use the intense anxiety that I seem to be able to channel for 5 years, and I'm going to set myself up for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Right.
Those are interesting decisions that you can make if you have the perspective to know where you are, to sort of stand outside yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I never considered my marriage a failure. I certainly feared it would be in advance of the decision. There's a lot there. I'm like, is this the right thing? It's very heavy. I hate, especially endings always feel hard. Like they've always felt hard for me, but afterwards I'm never like really screwed up. I'm just like, I think I made the best decision with the information available to me. I don't know. I felt ashamed. I was a person who had very strong beliefs about divorce. I just thought it was always wrong. So.
Well, I think there's a trap that you can fall into with that. The trap is, saying, okay, well, the person who made that decision didn't know what I know now. So the decision was wrong and I can just throw it out, no consequences. And I think it's that no consequences piece that is the most malicious and kind of can plant a seed.
Man, I think you're saying something really important, but I didn't get it.
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
My point is that if I have this infinite mindset and I say, okay, I'm going into my second marriage now, and I really believe in this one.
Are?
I really believe in this one, but I really think that infinite mindset was a good idea. then I can get 3 years in and I can start to see ways that maybe this isn't working so well. And then I can sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater because I have subscribed to this system that says, oh, course correction.
Yeah.
You know, does that make sense?
You're saying that's bad to do?
I'm saying it's a seed that can be planted in the way I live my life that I have to be careful of if I adopt that mindset, because I start to see these course corrections as good. I start to see abandoning decisions that I made in the past as good, because ultimately I'm striving toward something bigger.
Yeah.
And
okay.
when I'm talking about human beings and people, there's a little bit more at stake than just, oh, I think I made the wrong goal for my business. I'm going to correct that.
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
I'm the one who experiences that consequence, not the people around me.
Yeah. Noah said something in a recent podcast about never looking back, not really looking back anymore. He doesn't look at the past.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that came to mind was like, yeah, I mean, me either. And when would I think that it's important to? And I think it's probably important to look at the past when you find yourself in the same situation over and over.
Mm.
Like, you know, I'm in an abusive relationship. I got out of it. I'm in an abusive relationship. I got out of it. I'm in an abusive relationship. Like, is something.
Let me reframe.
Yeah.
Because I think we talked about, last week, we talked about having a goal and consistency on the path towards that goal. Yeah. And that path can change, and it can be winding, and it can take you lots of different directions. But you're directionally moving towards that goal. I think the past is valuable as soon as it becomes the past. Because if you course correct because of a thing that you've realized was the wrong direction, or it was a mistake, or however you want to call it, it's valuable. But if you course correct when it happens, the value is sort of gone now,
right,
of living in that past moment.
I agree. Yeah.
If you course correct as it happens. That doesn't mean it's wrong necessarily to reflect on the past. I don't mean it's like necessarily always bad to do that.
No, I know.
But I think it loses its value if you use it. It loses its value immediately once you've corrected.
I didn't say half of what I think about this, but the fuller expression is like that. I completely agree with you about the value of looking at the past. And the only exception I can really think, like, I mean thinking negatively about the past, just to be clear. Like going back and being like, oh, I'm an idiot, I shouldn't have done that. Or like just overviewing your failures over and over, or being self-critical. Like, I do see value in the past, like remembering times you enjoyed, or just being nostalgic or something. These seem valuable. But that self-critical, like, I'm going to review my decisions and see, like what I should do differently now, or should I do the same thing because I'm the same person? You're not the same person. Mm-hmm. Many processes have happened since that last decision. So the only time I would really want to do that is if I find myself in a repetitive circumstance. I keep getting in this bad situation, and it really is ending up the same. Like, something, you should look at that, I think. But the rest, I wouldn't spend a lot of time in the past.
Yeah. If I could categorize what I think is valuable about the past, it's the insight that it provides into the sort of natural system of existence, which I realize it doesn't make sense yet. But my point is, like, if I create a physical science experiment and I have this control group, and then I introduce a variable and I see what happens in it, I say, okay, that variable changes this environment, right? I learn things about the physical nature of our reality. The same can be true of people and this complex system that we are. Okay. I have some idea of who Jake is. I introduce fear, and Jake responds this way. Jake has historically responded this way. It sort of gives me then the ability to compensate or course correct. And I see this in two different ways. Like for me, there's the negative aspect. It is, one of the only times that I can think of that I really truly consider myself to have failed is, my dad was an alcoholic for a really long time. He went to AA, and part of his 12 steps was to make amends. Essentially what you do is you go to people that you feel like you have wronged, and you tell them what you believe you have done, and you say that you're sorry, and you ask if there's a way that you can make it up. And if not, you move on. Well, he tried to set a meeting with me like multiple times, and I kept saying, yeah, we'll get around to that. And it truly, like, no, making it pretty, I was terrified. I was terrified of the emotions that would come up. I didn't want to look him in the face. I didn't want to deal with those things. I was scared, and I never gave him the opportunity that he was asking for. Mm-hmm. My dad's dead now, and I'll never get the chance to do that. That feels like a failure. What do I take from that at this moment in my life? When I notice that fear, don't let it overcome me. I didn't like the person I became because of that. Mm-hmm. So I will change my behavior in the present. So that's sort of the negative aspect. And then I also see the positive aspect, and that is this. When I am experiencing my worst moments, if I look back on my life and I say, that terrible thing right there led me to my greatest joy. If I can connect those dots, funny enough, Alex Hormozy said something like this the other day. He said, if you wanted to create a superhuman, and this human was like, fire resistant, and this human, had a mind that thought 1,000 miles per hour, what conditions would you subject them to? You would put them in torture, and they would create systems to overcome this and adapt to it. Well, every single one of the worst experiences in my life has created adaptations in me that make me the person that I want to become. If I can remember that in my present moments, and to say, hey, I'm suffering with, like disbelief. I'm struggling with faith right now to believe that what I want to achieve is going to happen. Whatever it is, this bad moment, it is creating in me an adaptation that I will later be able to utilize and leverage. So these are the two ways that I really look at the past, and I say, I can learn those things from the past, and it changes what I do in the present.
I like it. Doesn't map directly for me. I just would say, like, this is what hard feels like. That seems way easier than connecting it to all the past times where I've had to do hard things. But yeah, that's just difference in people, I think.
It is. I think it's this difference in, like, I don't think that anything really has value intrinsically. It has the value that I give to it. So it's like, if I'm going through this hard moment, how will it be valuable to 35-year-old Jake? Well, depends on how I respond to it. Let's make an intentional decision to respond to it well.
Yeah. I just get that for free with This Is What Hard Feels Like, because I know that hard conditions create good character. Mm-hmm. And so if it's hard, I want to be doing it. This is what hard feels like. I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah. I think it's just taking that implicit and making it explicit for me.
Yeah. What do you do when you want to quit?
What do I do for what?
If it doesn't feel worth it right now to make the right decision. It feels like you have doubt about whether you can get there.
I don't identify with this.
Good. That seems better than our options. How do you get that if you don't have it?
I don't know. I may have this thing you're talking about, but the words you're using do not connect in my brain.
Yeah.
So to be clear, I'm not saying like I'm better or like I've got this figured out. What you're asking me doesn't compute.
So like when you were thinking about the body that you want to have,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of going down, the scale was going up, and instead of gaining muscle, you were losing muscle. Like the thought process or the course correction moment, like what was that experience like for you?
Very fluid, to be honest. The thing that I think about is like I didn't know. I knew what my goal was, and my goal is still the same. Simply talking about a visual sort of representation of what I want to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that, for instance, I don't know what that weight is. I don't know what weight I would be to have that aesthetic, for instance. I have an idea based on other people or whatever, but and where I'm at right now and so on. I don't know what that is. But I also didn't know, like when I was 195 with very little muscle on my body, I had only done what I thought I could to get there, which was lose a bunch of fat.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even consider the muscle aspect up until that point. And then I went, oh, wow, I lost a bunch of muscle. This isn't what I want to look like. And so it's just realizing another variable that I hadn't taken into account. But it didn't feel like failure or it didn't necessarily feel hard. It just felt like, oh, I've got another thing to take into account now.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't anything that I took.
I think the major difference between the way you probably think by default and what Jake's talking about is just the time interval.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
Like he's thinking today, it doesn't feel easy. And you're like, I don't know, I'll evaluate whether it went well in a month or something.
Yeah, when maybe that's why when you asked it didn't compute either, because would I like to look how I want to look right now? Sure. I mean, everybody would love to have what they want right this second, but I don't know. I just am very realistic about it. I know that it's going to take time. It took a lot of time to lose all that weight, and it's going to take time to gain it too, especially in the way that I want to gain it. And I don't know. I guess I just don't think of it in those terms. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I mean, like that reminds me of the question I asked last week, which was, like, is this a decision that I have to make every day, or is it a decision that I made one time that, transmutes to a result a month from now? It's like, well, if I, base my behaviors on my own emotional volatility, which could be different in the morning than it is the afternoon, then potentially I'm going to feel like my goal is insurmountable. If, however, I say, okay, that's where I want to go, and I've decided that my behaviors for the next 4 weeks are going to be this, then it doesn't really matter how I'm feeling, if it's up or down. It's like, well, it's not even time to look in the mirror yet. This is an experiment. It's a long-term experiment.
Well, and the other thing that I think I might do better than the majority of people is that I understand that reaching a goal, I don't even like the term goal, to be honest with you, but reaching some sort of outcome that I'm shooting for doesn't mean that the work is done when you reach it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your goal is to look the way you want to for a day, and then you're like, oh, I reached it. I mean, I understand that even when I get there, if I want to maintain that goal, I have to continue doing the things that I've changed.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing was true for you. We've talked about Matt Fraser. To maintain being the fittest person on earth, he had to continue to do that. He had to continue not only to maintain it, but he had to get better because everybody else is getting better consistently. And when he was done with that as a goal, he could give that up.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, most goals are not a single stationary target. Most goals are something that you want to maintain. I mean, if you want to have a successful business, you don't just reach success and then stop. You continue. I suppose there are some stationary goals. If you want to win a prize, if you want to win a Pulitzer, I suppose you can really target it and work, and you don't even determine that.
Right.
So is that a good goal? Probably not, but it is something that if you win it, okay, now you can move on. There are things like that, I suppose, but I don't think those are good goals.
I do think it's almost like the words in language were created for good reasons. But if you want clarity, and I think we've acknowledged that clarity of vision is key to consistency, then one area to practice is focus. And I think a lot of people, like if I think about the people who are least good at consistency on their own targets, it is the people who have the least ability to focus. They do not practice it. They don't practice mindfulness, and they just are sort of flittering about. And if I think about the days that I'm worse at, like the worst day for me at being on target, it's like that. There's no focus. The thing I want clarity about is not in my mind. It's occupied by whatever, the past or the future or almost anything but now and the reality of getting to where I want to go. So I think focus is big. It's almost like that word means something.
Yeah, it seems it's multifaceted because you have to have clarity and you have to be focused on that, right? Those are the two elements. But again, it's sort of this, some people are going to be better at focus, just baseline. Some people are going to be better at focus because they have practiced it and exercised it, trained that muscle. But that's sort of, shaky. And then on the other hand, you have, okay, focus on what? Focus on the horizon? Well, I might go east or west and I'm still going to end up moving forward. Or do I focus on that barn right there, walk toward it? Like that sort of clarity, is different. I think that making your goals explicit is a huge element toward getting there. You're going to make progress, but progress toward what?
I was just thinking about progress, actually, is why I said, when you said that, because without that clarity, you can't make progress. But also, you can't, when you have clarity on where you're going, now you can identify the steps to get there. It's not just progress, but you can identify what progress is. So like an easy example here would be, I've said on this podcast before, I think, Amy and I would like to in some way be content creators, I think at some point. We're not close to it at this moment, but just knowing that we want that thing uncovers a bunch of things that I probably need to do. Well, I need to have a camera or multiple cameras. I need to learn how to use those. I don't know anything about photography or video or editing or any of this. I need to learn these things. These are all steps that I've now identified that I have to figure out. I have an iPhone now, which I'm not a huge fan of. We all know this, but it's hands down the best camera. It is hands down the best thing for me if I'm going to be this thing that I've identified that I want. And so now I have an iPhone. Like there are all these steps that are now clarified for me because I've been very clear about what the goal is. It's the same no matter what. And that might be the biggest reason clarity on what you want is important, because how do you even get there?
Yeah.
I think another element is sort of secondary to what you just said, like how I get there. In my mind, I envision, okay, you are here on a map. Here's where you want to go. Here's your location. And then you've got the line between the two.
Mhm.
And, oh, look, there's a bridge here and it goes over a river. And, you've got some construction here. My point is that it also allows you to foresee potential stumbling gaps. I, a while back, decided that I wasn't going to drink alcohol anymore. And I thought it was really interesting. I had a work trip a couple of weeks back. I work remotely. I was meeting my boss for the first time. All expenses, were paid, at restaurants and everything like this. Could have gotten drinks for free. It was the perfect social environment to be, having alcohol, whatever. I thought it was really interesting because after I got back, Frank asked me this question. He was like, "Did you drink?" And, I don't know what you were thinking about that, but to me, what it signified was, oh, he saw a potentially stumbling block at the same place that I saw a potential stumbling block. And, it was really interesting for me because I foresaw that. Like when I made the decision to go to where I was going, I said, there's going to be all these experiences that have always been linked with alcohol in my mind. You go out, you have fun with friends, you're drinking. You go on a work trip, you're meeting with clients and stuff, you're drinking, right? What I then did was I transmuted this. I converted it into, this is your opportunity to see when you take alcohol away, what fills the place. What is that experience like? And now it's not this experience of, I don't have it. It's this experience of, what's there? Let's pay attention. Let's get curious. Let's get excited. And I think that when you have that clarity of where you want to go, it also contextualizes or interprets all the stumbling blocks differently. It says, oh, that is a hazard along the way, and it gets to be this. I get to define it and give it that definition.
Yeah. I didn't have any sense of meaning about it. I just thought it was a place that people do drink.
Yeah.
I didn't think, if anything, I didn't think anything about it. I just wondered if you did. Cause you said you couldn't sleep or something,
Mm-hmm.
and you weren't feeling well.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you drank for the first time in a long time, that might be the cause.
I didn't think anything of it other than, I said I wasn't going to do this, but other people who know me think maybe I gave up on my goal for whatever reason. Know anything about it.
I think
but
I
that
have a
was
very fundamental misunderstanding of what you think about alcohol. I thought you didn't identify as a person who drinks it anymore.
Right. So I don't drink. So it was interesting to me that you would ask a person who doesn't drink if you drank. Like, oh, that's interesting. Why would he ask that? Like, that's not even in the subset of possibilities.
Interesting. Yeah. I thought, so I don't identify as a person who eats very many cinnamon rolls. But
not any cinnamon rolls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But if I'm in a place where someone just baked one and it's like homemade, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
And if I'm in the right environment for it, then I might do it. But that doesn't mean you should, or that I expected you to, or anything. After I said the words, I was like, oh, I don't think he would even drink at all. Yeah. But I don't know really what your whole heuristic there is of like,
exactly. Yeah.
You're never going to drink again. Is that what you mean?
The way I said it out was that I was absolutely not going to drink any alcohol for a year. And I was going to identify as a person who doesn't drink alcohol any longer, which meant that I made decisions to get rid of any lifestyle factors or anything that I used to have in my life. And that meant like bottles of liquor at home. I'm not saving those for a year from now. I'm not a person who drinks. Not I'm going to drink on May 15th, 2024, or something like that. It's like, no, I don't drink
on my
anymore.
Birthday, man?
Oh, I guess I did.
Wow.
Yeah. So, anyway, no, I didn't feel judged by it at all. I thought it was interesting that, there is this stumbling block. Like there is something objectively there where it's more likely for a person to drink here, to give up on their goal. And it's not just me thinking that would be it. It's other people as well saying, oh yeah, that's an environment where people, would be likely to do this behavior. And it was having that clarity of where I want to go that allowed me to foresee that before I even got there and to say, oh, this isn't a negative thing. This isn't, I can't drink with my boss. Dang it. It's, what's this going to be like? Like I haven't had a lot of these social occasions in the last 10 years where we weren't drinking together. This is exciting.
Yeah. All right. I mean, it's most important is what you think here.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it as a stumbling block. I thought like, if anything, maybe it's an opportunity he would drink.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, I think you went to fancy places, you're with people that, you work with, and that's common in business culture.
We're saying the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, never drink when I work because it makes me feel like crap. I don't drink anyways, ultimately, but
yeah.
I always go out with people when I'm working, doing work travel. I never get alcohol. I have before and it sucks. It doesn't feel good. So I never do it, but I meant nothing by it. And I think the most important thing is what Jake thinks about it all. And sounds like you had a good method for that.
Yeah, no, it was good. I didn't think you thought anything about it.
Yeah. I didn't think it meant that you failed at your goal at all.
Right.
And I still wouldn't. And if you want to drink, drink. And if you don't. And I like whatever you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I support you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only value I have here is that it couldn't matter. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, it might be worth looking at. It's just, you could have been you. You could have been a random stranger that I happen to mention I don't drink to. Like, it was, Jake doesn't drink. This is a known quality about him. But he's not feeling well. Did you drink? Like, it's this, well, no, I didn't. So what does that mean? It means there was something about that environment, which you just said, that would be likely to keep a person or to make a person change direction from their goal. So all it does is speak about the environment. There are qualities about this work trip, fancy restaurant environment that may be an opportunity for a person to deviate from their goal. It's more about the goal and the opportunity of the environment than anything. I didn't think you thought anything about me.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's the other factor, which is the weirdest possible language around I'm not going to drink for a year that I can imagine. And so I didn't know what that meant. And so I thought maybe that means, I mean, I didn't think all this. They're preconceived ideas.
Yeah.
In the moment, I wasn't like, oh yeah, Jake said he identifies as a person who doesn't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Instead of he doesn't drink alcohol.
Sure.
So maybe that means he does drink alcohol on work trips. I didn't think all that. I just thought, oh, he says he didn't feel well. Maybe he drank. Did you drink?
This is why it's a perfect mirror, because you're just telling me like what came out of the subconscious. Like, given what I know, I think this might be possible.
Yeah.
So I used it as a second data point. I thought that the work trip might be a stumbling block or something that that detracted me from my goal. Somebody else also had that same thought process somewhere, whether it was conscious or subconscious. I'm going to use that as a way to triangulate. Oh yeah, that really was a potential area of
sure,
going away from the goal. But the whole point here, we can just cut all that out because I don't think it really got anywhere, is that by knowing where I was going, I was able to map the terrain from here to there. And I was able to say, I'm going to have a work trip. This is a potential area where I have historically exhibited a certain behavior that I no longer want to exhibit. I've got a trip coming up, a vacation, where I would typically use alcohol, nice drinks to like enhance the experience, flavor experience, sit around a fire, have a good beer, whatever. I'm not going to do that this time. It's an opportunity for me to see what a solo vacation by myself without alcohol looks like. Yeah. And by reinterpreting these things, it's an opportunity that, again, reaffirms that identity of who I am.
Right.
And I love it.
Yeah, I think it's great.
So I guess the whole context to like bring it back home is, hey, consistency is hard. These are some of the areas that make consistency hard. What are some of the tools that we have at our disposal to maybe be proactive about making it less difficult to stay consistent?
All right. I don't think consistency is hard at all, but otherwise
Sure.
I agree with the premise of what you're saying. If you have a clear vision and you're focused on it, then consistency is not at all hard.
You know, this is branding, right? Clarity, consistency, and constancy. Those are the three pillars of branding.
What's the difference between consistency and constancy?
Well, think of it this way. Consistency. So you're clear on a goal, like what you want to be, whatever. That's the clarity. Consistency is you do the things regularly that you need to get to this goal. And then constancy is, think of it as you've turned into this thing. You've become it.
Oh.
I know we're supposed to be unbecoming.
That's interesting.
Constancy is...
Stop becoming.
Yeah.
Okay. So one is like an attribute of behavior. The other is the attribute or the characteristic of the shape you're taking.
Yeah,
or
I mean, how did Apple
become
Apple? They were consistent in the things that they were doing towards that clear goal that they created.
Yeah.
And now it's ubiquitous.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
You are probably not a person who doesn't consume alcohol yet.
Mm.
But on May 15th, 2024, you may realize that you are.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not. Maybe you'll realize May 15th of 2027 that you are.
Mm-hmm.
You've become it. But you will become it if that's your goal and you're consistent.
Yeah. Again, it's that identity piece. This is the way that, we take business conversations and apply them to our practical individual lives. The Unbecoming Platypus
podcast.
Yeah, I think we need to get back to our roots as a business comedy podcast. And thanks for listening, everyone.
So Steve Jobs walked into a bar.
Okay.
Keep going. Let's hear it.
Was it a genius
said,
bar?
Ow.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hey, it's Frank again. Thanks for listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast to stay updated on future episodes. You can also check us out online at theunbecomingplatypus.com. We hope these conversations inspire you to improve your communication skills and deepen your connections with your own friends and loved ones. Until next time, this has been the Unbecoming Platypus podcast.